is faced with annihilation by its neighbors. Can culture hold a people together? For centuries, the small country of Estonia has faced these questions. With the Baltic Sea to the west and Russia to the east, Estonia is a gateway between Europe and Russia and has always been a desired place. People here have faced wave after wave of occupiers. Danes, Swedes, Germans, Poles, Russian Tsars, the Soviet Union. All have seen the value of this land. But Estonia's darkest and bloodiest chapter began in 1939, when the Soviets crossed the border. Within months, thousands were executed. Others disappeared. In one night, 10,000 men, women, and children were taken from their homes, loaded into cattle cars, and shipped to slave labor camps in Siberia. More than half never returned. Then the Nazis came. They withdrew, and the Soviets returned with a vengeance, this time staying for 50 years and nearly eradicating the Estonian nation. After 5,000 years on this land, Estonians almost ceased to exist. Estonians fought and sang and survived. For centuries, people here from all over the country have come together, joined voices and sung. In Estonia, fairy tale heroes are not brave noblemen who slay dragons and save damsels. Their hero is the shrewd old barn keeper who sits by the fire, waits, watches, and acts only when the time is right. Patience is a weapon. Caution, a virtue. This is the story of how culture saved a nation.
first time at the song festival, singing in the boy choir. And I just remember the first feeling when just one singer with all others 20,000 singers. We were part of the one nation or part of this country. And just a great feel.
Before he's talking, he's singing. Too little. One song I remember is when he gets sleep. Liire takka tulevad kolm meresõidumasinad.
It was our lullaby. I still remember that.
Yeah.
The most important thing to understand Estonian history is our singing tradition.
Singing is a part of growing up here. And so too is a sense of the country's history. After centuries of occupation, Estonia gained its independence in 1920. For 2 decades, this new country flourished. It was a nation of high literacy rates, a strong economy, and an optimism for the future. But by 1939, the major European powers were becoming restless, and there was little room on the international stage for this small country of 1 billion people. All the singing in the world couldn't prevent the events to come.
Up until 1939, Estonia was an independent country, and then in 1939 Hitler and Stalin signed a pact which divided a lot of Europe between them and actually was the basis for starting World War II.
Hitler and Stalin's plan would devastate Europe. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was a military agreement between the Nazis and Soviets, containing a secret clause that divided the continent between Germany and the Soviet Union. Estonia was to be taken by the Soviets. Within days of the signing, Hitler invaded Poland. Then over 25,000 Soviet soldiers poured into Estonia. And within a year there were more than 80,000. 1 Soviet soldier for every 12 Estonians.
In 1940 there came the total occupation of Estonia, and we had no possibilities to organize our defense because we were alone.
The first months of 1940 meant taking people out of their houses and then arresting several thousands, executing them.
The idea of this was to destroy all resistance to society. Teachers, scientists, writers, politicians, everybody who has been a member of the Estonian government or the Prime Minister was killed.
Estonians lived in fear of arrest, execution, or a sentence to Soviet concentration camps, the Gulag. No one was safe. The greatest fear was a knock on the door in the middle of the night. Local Soviet officials would grab any convenient person to fulfill prisoner quotas. 1/3 of those deported to Siberia were children.
Mina kui laps, 14-aastane laps, olin lihtsalt number, sest arvud olid antud, ei nutnud. Sest see oli nii lollakas, saad aru. Sest minutil, kui sa pead kooli hakkama minema ja päeval on klaverieksam ja sa osutud olema kuskil kiskina kuskil puuris, siis peaks ütlema, et väga naljakas. Aga muidugi oli inimene, kes kohutavalt karjus ja see oli üks naine, kelle väga väiksed 4 last jäid teadmata kuhu. Nii et
methods of torture, physical torture, psychological torture too. The hunger, the cold, were unsuitable for the survival.
This was very hard time for our parents, nation, yeah, all the nation, because we don't understand why they were taken and sent to Siberia. For what?
Nobody listened to us. And I suppose that is this feeling, being left behind the curtain where nobody can hear what is going on here. And what was going on really was the most direct, severe genocide.
ma pean sulle ütlema, et mina olen vabana sündinud ja sellepärast tean ma täpselt, kuidas see vabariik välja nägi, millised olid inimesed, milline linn välja nägi, kuidas üle terve Pirita hõljus see vanilje ja vahvlijäätise lõhn. Dirigeerimist hakkasime õppima siis, kui ma tulin Siberist tagasi.
The first year of the Soviet occupation became known as the Year of Suffering. But the Estonian nation still survived. In 1941, Hitler betrayed Stalin and broke their agreement. The German army invaded Russia and also stormed across the border into Estonia. It was now the Nazis' turn to devastate the country. Nazi ideology replaced Soviet propaganda. Young Estonians were either forced into the German army or shot. But within 3 years, the war turned against Hitler. Germany retreated and Soviet troops once again invaded Estonia.
So what are you supposed to do within the 4-year time span when you have both your enemies there, opposing each other and opposing you? Aha! Who were those Estonians who cooperated with the Russians? We had to get rid of you. And then 3 years of German occupation and the Russians come back. Ha! Who were those who cooperated with the Germans?
With grisly memories of the year of suffering, 70,000 Estonians, fearing death, fled the country. But it wasn't an easy escape. Some drowned in small fishing boats. Some were killed by Soviet planes. Others were captured. But thousands eventually made it to the West, where they would preserve the Estonian language and culture, hoping that someday they could return home.
All our family was torn apart. Part of the family was deported to Siberia, part of the family escaped to the West. Some stayed here, some were killed.
But the rest of the world knew little of Estonia's suffering. In 1945, Stalin convinced the Americans and the English that he would soon set up free elections in Estonia. Roosevelt and Churchill agreed to this deception, and Stalin walked away with Estonia in his firm grip. World War II officially ended soon after. But for Estonians, this was just the beginning of a new, long chapter of Soviet occupation. The country was devastated, having lost over 1/4 of its population.
There were tens of thousands of people who nevertheless decided to fight because they were sure that you couldn't give this country away without fighting. Only nation who fights for its freedom can have it, even if this fight is lost.
"30,000 young men and women took to the woods to fight for a free Estonia, ambushing Soviet soldiers and sabotaging military convoys. They called themselves the Forest Brothers."
Ja nii siis läksin mina ka varakevadel 1945. Läksin ära metsa, võtsin kirve ja oma suure revolvri, mis oli selleks puhuks juba varutud. Ja läksin lihtsalt metsa ja hakkasin metsas elama. Tegin omale punkri elamise jaoks. Siis kohtasin me teisi metsavendi. Elasime koos nendega.
Alfred Karman lived in the forest for 8 years, 1 month, and 7 days.
Keegi meid ei kuulnud, keegi meist välja teha ei teinud. Meid tapeti ja terve Eesti rahvas oli kommunistliku vägivalla all. Raudne eesriie oli karmilt kinni, põgeneda ei saanud. Ja nii läks elu edasi. Meil ei olnud seda lootust. Meil ei olnud mitte mingisugust lootust peale selle edasi elada nii kaua, kui on võimalik. Meie viimased mehed, kes metsa jäime, meie arusaamine oli niimoodi, et nii kaua kui relv käes, elu sees ja Eestimaa pind jalge all, allaandmist ei ole.
Like many Forest Brothers, Karman placed his hopes in the promise that the West would eventually pressure the Soviets to leave Estonia. This never happened. In 1952, he was captured, interrogated, tortured, and then sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. With the occupation fully entrenched, the Soviets next began an intense period of Russification. Tens of thousands of Russian workers were relocated to Estonia, sometimes forming entirely new cities.
Russification was one of the main tools for keeping the Soviet Union together.
Farms were taken from their owners and collectivized. Those who resisted were arrested and sentenced to Siberia. Anything that could bring back memories of pre-Soviet life was destroyed. Estonia no longer existed. It was now a Soviet Socialist Republic. But there was one thing holding Estonians together, giving them hope. Singing. For thousands of years, music has been a vital part of life here. In fact, this tiny country has one of the largest collections of folk songs in the world. And since the 19th century, Estonians have traveled from all over the country to join voices in massive song festivals. These festivals were as much about national identity as music.
Every corner of the country where they had a small singing group had the right to participate. They practiced the songs all winter and then they came together, all in national costumes. 25,000 singers on the stage at the same time.
But with the Soviets in power, things changed.
Meil on millest laulda, kelle auks laulda. Laulda rahva, kes sündis, laulda võidus, laulda suurest taanist.
In 1947, after years of war, the Song Festival continued. But now, the Soviet propaganda machine realized that this huge gathering provided the perfect opportunity to show how delighted Estonians were to be living under communism. But the festival also presented an opportunity to Estonians. Conductor Gustav Ernesaks composed a new piece of music to premiere at the festival. The lyrics were taken from a well-known national poem written 100 years earlier by Lydia Koidula. Its title was Mu Isamaa on Minu Ara, or Land of My Fathers, Land That I Love. Surprisingly, the song slipped by the Soviet censors, and suddenly 25,000 voices were singing a love song to their former country. The song was sung in Estonian, not Russian, and in a matter of moments, it became the unofficial national anthem.
And it's a beautiful song. The words are so nice. And definitely it was a sign of protest, where all this pain and love and belief in this nation. And I guess this very moment was important for all Estonians.
Nii et laulupidu ei ole meil mitte ainult muusikaline sündmus, kus me kuuleme meie paremaid laule, vaid see oli ja see on praegu edasi. Kõigepealt võimalus läbi elada seda, et me oleme eestlased, meil on kultuur, me oleme üks rahvus. Meid on nii vähe, et me peame seda rõhutama, et me oleme olemas.
Throughout the 1950s and 60s, life under the Soviets consisted of communist youth groups, May Day parades, and thousands more deportations to Siberia. People couldn't express anything that might be construed as political opinion, fearing the omnipresent shadow of KGB surveillance.
It was all behind the scenes, constant psychological pressure. It was amazing, a monster, and you never know how big it was, where it was, who in your family or your friends who were the agents. So there was never official face of the organization. It was always behind the scenes in the minds of the people. And they were very effective in making us scared.
Even the simplest traditions, like celebrating Christmas at home, were forbidden.
My father took the Christmas tree home every Christmas, but the curtains was closed. Because if someone saw that you have Christmas tree in your house, it's very bad.
I am not absolutely aware that most of Estonians thought that we can be free. We just try to find the way how to make this life better, more honest, more open, more happy.
So much depended on the family situation because parents couldn't speak easily. At school they taught a lot of crap, but I did get some hints from my parents. My father mostly told how things really were.
I still have inside me that things that we talked between ourselves had to be kept in our house and never to be spoken, even to our closest friends at school. I couldn't talk about these things outside.
Because Soviets were afraid, of course, of the big enemy there outside, wanted to come in and wanted to destroy all this beautiful socialist happiness that we are living in. That was a main issue.
Throughout the years of occupation, the song festivals continued, with 2 days of Estonians begrudgingly singing songs about communism and Lenin and Marx. But at the end of the festival, they sang the traditional Estonian songs as well.
Everybody actually came to this laulupidu to sing these 3 or 4 additional songs. But this was emotionally so strong feeling that it was worth to sing these scrap songs and then the real emotional songs in the end.
1969 was the 100th anniversary of the song festivals, and Estonians were anticipating a large celebration. But the Soviet authorities were looking to squelch the Estonian spirit. So they discouraged the wearing of traditional Estonian folk costumes and forbade the singing of Mu Isama on Minu Arm, the unofficial national anthem that premiered at the 1947 Song Festival.
ja niimoodi oligi, ma mäletan, seegi laulupidu, see oli jah, see kuulus juubeli laulupidu 69. aastal, kus jällegi koorid on laulnud oma ametliku programmi ära, lavalt ära ei lähe. Pannakse seal tavaliselt nagu oli need puhkpilliorkestrid mängima, et summutada koori laulu, sellest midagi ei aita. Rahvas, mäletan, karjub seal lauluväljakul mu isamaa on minu arm, mu isamaa on minu arm, niimoodi skandeeritakse kogu aeg.
I remember this time all singers want to sing Mu isamaa on minu arm, and we started to sing without leader, and then not once time, 2 times, 3 times, all need more. It was very feeling.
No, it's interesting thing, if 20,000 people start to sing one song, even without the conductor, then you just cannot shut them up. It's impossible.
The Soviets were forced to let the song's composer, Gustav Ernesaks, take the stage and conduct the song.
Lõpuks see asi
asi kujuneski selleks, et laulupidu, mida 5 aastat hoolega ette valmistati, tema peamine eesmärk oligi selleks, et tulla kokku ja koos rahvaga maha laulda see üks keelatud ja kõige tähtsam. Kõik rahvas võis minna koju oma igapäevase töö juurde teadmisega, et Eesti vaim elab edasi.
In the 1970s, the song festivals did keep the Estonian spirit alive. But the oppressive reality of daily life still consisted of long food lines, incessant propaganda, and little hope for anything resembling freedom. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev came to power. Educated by the Stalinist school system, he was a firm believer in communism.
Soviet television took pains to show Gorbachev, a man from a new generation, with Prime Minister Tikhonov and Foreign Minister Gromyko. Men from the Stalin days, men born before the Bolshevik Revolution. That was probably done to show the Soviet people and the world that there is continuity inside the Kremlin.
While he intended to maintain the communist grip on the Soviet Union, Gorbachev could no longer deny the crumbling economic devastation of the past 70 years. So he planned to modernize the Soviet system, introducing the concepts of glasnost and perestroika.
And perestroika means relative freedom within the Soviet system. And glasnost means, this is the Russian word for free speech.
And let's say Gorbachev and his cohorts had been traveling in the West. They must have seen something in their own times. Why don't we have this prosperity back home? We have tried and tried and tried. And we are poor. We don't have anything. People are unhappy and so on.
And Gorbachev was relatively intelligent, and he decided to launch a major campaign for renewing the Soviet system. But within the system, felt that the communists should remain. But he made one very basic fundamental mistake. He didn't realize that whenever you give free speech to people, then things get out of hand. The ghost gets out of the bottle.
But the Estonians here, that had their own goals. They thought, our big chance. If we're going to change something, okay, let's do it. Let's do it the real way. Let's do it our way. And of course, that wasn't exactly what Gorbachev had in mind.
In 1987, Estonians took their first step in testing this new openness. The Soviets had unveiled a plan to begin strip mining in Estonia. Some decided to push the limits of glasnost and organized protests against the mines.
At first, I think that this environmental issue was more safe because even in Soviet Union you could speak about the environment, about nature.
They calculated that by taking non-violent action, about the environment. Gorbachev wouldn't use force to stop the protests. In light of glasnost and perestroika, this would have been an international embarrassment for him. The strategy worked, and the mines were halted. Soon after, a small group of activists decided to try something riskier, to openly speak about politics and history and the Soviet occupation.
On aeg teha niisugust otsustavaid liigutusi, et midagi uut peab tooma sisse. Ja siis me mõtlesimegi välja selle, et terve Eesti saatuse raskuspunkt on ju Molotov-Ribbentropi paktis juriidiliselt. Ja tegelikult on aeg selle eest kõvahäälselt hakata võitlema.
Nagle Parek, Tiit Madison and Heikki Ahonen decided to openly contest the legality of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. All three had previously spent hard prison time for anti-Soviet activities. They planned a demonstration but couldn't publicize it, so they depended on word of mouth and the illegal Voice of America and Radio Free Europe. On the morning of August 23rd, with KGB agents watching every move and taking photographs, the group arrived, thinking that only a handful of people would be brave enough to show up. Surprisingly, several thousand people appeared.
The authorities say that if you disturb traffic, then you can expect a very harsh punishment, because it could have led to 10 years of labor camps and things like that.
The police shut off the public address system, so demonstrators used rolled-up paper megaphones to be heard over the crowd.
First of all, they started to talk, and then they were understood that they are not yet arrested, and then they talked more, and they understood that they are not arrested again, and then they talked even more.
The demonstration at Hirve Park was the first time in 50 years that anybody had spoken publicly against the Soviet occupation and got